But when I was reading to 2666, that was like, that's why I think it's important to like, at least for me, not for like the rest of the people who write, but like for me to like kind of pull you into a space you don't want to like be in, which for him was like violence and all these things, and not just meander into like, because he accepts, like Bolaño accepts, like I can't explain to you like what is the cause or what is the main,
it's
like,
NAFTA.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know the NAFTA thing. I remember you were saying about the NAFTA thing. Yeah, my dad, whatever. But
what, your dad wasn't feeling that?
Yeah, well, because you read the Sergio Gonzalez, the femicide mission. I actually went to a bookstore like.
Wait, what did your
3
dad
days
think about
ago.
that? He wasn't feeling that?
No, about what?
He wasn't feeling
about
that
the NAFTA. No, my dad like talks about that.
Oh.
Like he died. Yeah. Yeah, you need to get him. I
gotta get your dad.
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
that's a deep cut.
Because he went
That's
to
a deep
school.
cut.
He went to school for economics.
No, but
and he knows.
That's not the full answer.
Yeah.
Why did NAFTA happen?
Yeah.
It goes
deeper.
It keeps going deeper.
Yeah. But
and why was that the result of NAFTA? Yeah.
But
no one's gonna get that. No one's gonna understand what I'm talking about.
That's like half of your podcast.
True.
Yeah. it's like you grab and then Harold is like balancing it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Harold just reels me back from complete incoherence. Wait. But your dad's read that book? The Femicide Machine?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's read that book. I've read it.
You have read it?
Yeah, I've read it. I read it in Spanish. I have the Spanish version where you have the all the lists and like the real murderers and stuff.
Sergio
I haven't
Gonzalez.
finished it, though.
Sergio Gonzalez, the journalist from.
He's a journalist
part of
that
the crimes in the end of the part of the crimes he comes in.
that part where it goes back to back to back where he meets the girl who is that says so much about the way Mexico is structured.
What happens?
Well, he basically, you have this journalist, Sergio, which is my dad's name. My dad's name is Sergio.
Wow.
And he is, he's talking to this lady that he meets.
Yeah.
He invites him, and he tells him a story about her best friend.
Yeah.
And that, that's
is that the lady who tells him you must strike flesh, draw blood?
Yes. Yeah, that's the lady. Yeah.
That changed my life.
Yeah. Really? How come?
Well, no, that's right.
Yeah,
I have
that's
to
right.
strike flesh,
yeah.
I've been striking flesh, drawing blood.
You've been.
And the streets, you're at war. The streets can't handle it, dude.
Facts.
And that's when I tell everybody, are you striking flesh, drawing blood? Are you writing? Are you writing anything? Are you writing with your blood, or are you trying to write? You trying to sound smart?
You trying to sound smart? Yeah. Like David Markson. Or David Foster Wallace.
Yeah. But what are you saying? What did it say about Mexico? She exposes the hypocrisy.
She kind of exposes because corruption. Yeah, there's a lot of corruption in Mexico City, and kind of like the point of this in Mexico City, there's this like party called Morena. Yeah. Morena is like this socialist leaning. All of my family from my side of my Mexican family are obsessed because my family is like my great grandparents were like farmers,
right?
And they moved they're from Guanajuato. And they're farmers, and they came to Mexico City. My great grandparent was like a waiter. Okay. And he bought his house in this neighborhood that I was talking to you about where my grandma lives through tips.
Okay.
And so they lit.
Sorry, I spaced out for a second. Your grandparents were farmers.
My grandparents were farmers. Yeah.
Were farmers.
Yeah. And so basically, like when they bought this house, outside in Guanajuato, Guanajuato, yeah. Okay. And basically just to give like the preemptive thing, but they had 8 children or 7 children, bunch of fucking children. Yeah. And all of them became, highly like activists, they all started reading Marxism, like Marx and all these things, which is a very natural thing when you're very class conscious and all these things. And it's not through just the internet or whatever. Yeah. And so all of them like became like my grandma in specifically she studies sociology and she's like a huge Hegel or whatever, and so they're all really like they all love this guy called AMLO, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who's the president or was the president of Mexico City. Okay. He just like his term is done now. Okay. He brought in this girl called Sheinbaum who's like beefing with Trump right now. Oh, okay. Yeah, because of the tariffs. And whatever. And so to go back to whatever, but yeah, basically like. His whole deal is that he's trying to like he doesn't give a fuck. Like everybody's always telling him like, bro, what's going on with like, because in Mexico City it's really like if you go there's always protests of like all these feminist. It's really strong because Mexico City has always, and you even learn that in the Savage Detectives when all these poets are talking about like the French poets. There's always been Mexico City is actually like a very European country because of the Spaniards conquering and giving their like culture, whatever. You know, a lot of Mexicans, they're in love with Western culture. They're in love with like the Europeans and stuff like that. So a lot of like, you know, people in Mexico City are very like what you would call woke or whatever.
I see. Yeah.
And so basically, like in Mexico, this president AMLO was like, he is very like, you know, it's for the people and all these things, but he's about it. Like he was like, you know, my first thing I want to do is end corruption. Like that's the most important thing. So doing these things with like the cartels, and people hate him because he didn't do anything about the feminist side or something. But like, what can he do? You know, like, I'm not here to defend him. But but basically, in that last part in 2666, Bolaño, I think, breaks down kind of like the relationship between people in the literary world or like in the journalists or whatever, and that like, you know, that like kick, like when you're trying to change something, you're trying to say something, and they like kick you, and why?
The Point magazine,
like,
dude. And the Point magazine. No, he's constantly comparing like, the corruption. Don't want to see anything outside of your purview of the political sphere.
And how there's like a force that is there
to the literary world.
Because there's this girl.
There's a fucking coup going on, and you're just like, I'm gonna stay inside and read this Plato. Yeah,
exactly.
Right?
And in that last part, it's really good.
And the woman breaks it down.
She breaks it down simply by just explaining her life. Like, and you kind of get it, you know. She doesn't critique
late
it.
in the crimes.
Yeah, late in the crimes. The last part where it like switches back and forth between all these, because he always does that in the part in 2666 where he like at the end he starts defragmentizing the whole thing, which is like
switch with two storylines
back and forth, which is like honestly is like super. I really like that like that mode because it's like.
I do that a couple times.
Yeah, because he's like, it's kind of like in the Savage Detectives when he does a polyphonic narrative. You're like, you know, your brain has to like. So he's like overtly telling you like these things are connected.
Yeah, you know? Exactly. But you got to figure out how. But was that related to your grandparents somehow?
It kind of describes a sentiment in I feel like in a lot of like, you know, like writers. Or no, like a lot of like my. Well, you know, I was just kind of giving like a like the background of why, you know. Can you pour me up just a little bit? Yeah, thanks, bro.
We drinking that. Drinking that Goya.
Yeah, we ain't going to bed.
That Goya sauce, dude. That Goya's finest. Let me top you off.
It's hot.
Yeah, it's hot and strong.
It's good.
It's good, dude. I'm telling you, don't sleep on the Goya brick, dude.
My dad's always about like expensive coffee and shit.
when me and Vivi used to rap a lot, we'd always be talking about the beans, like popping the beans, you know what I'm saying? But then it would always just be like
coffee.
It'd be coffee or literal beans.
Literal beans.
Like when you're struggling, you gotta
eat beans.
Yeah, and you pop a bean. You pop a bean. But
three-way.
Yeah, three-way beans.
Yeah, three-way beans.
But just literally referencing the Goya beans. Goya beans with the chicken broth. That's what's up.
But yeah. So basically, like, I mentioned that just to give a little bit of a context on, like that. I kind of call it like, because people in Mexico City have that sentiment of like, having to, I don't fucking know, like, you know, having to destroy
fight the fight.
Yeah. And you know, people here in the United States are like a little bit more disillusioned. Have you seen any like Adam Curtis?
Yeah.
Hypernormalization. All these things. I would kind of say like hypernormalization. Like, maybe this is too much of like a whatever. I'm just throwing it out. But I feel like Americans have a little bit more of that, like, because like capitalism is so much stronger here, it's already so much like way more like embedded in us.
Right. And it's like, well, like Mexico always has at least from 2666, like Mexico has like the relationship to the U.S. as like an explicit force to like fight against, whereas in the U.S. like you're kind of like hypocritical.
Octavio Paz talks about that.
He does?
In The Labyrinth of Solitude, about how just a sheer fact about Mexico and the United States being together.
Exactly. I mean, Bolaño's looking at that a lot.
Yeah, he is.
So and just to finish the
and that's what's sick about Bolaño. Like, even though he hates Octavio Paz, he still respects him.
I know. Yeah, and he's still his son, kind of.
Yeah, he's still his son.
He's still his son. Yeah. But that was just to
finish your thought.
Finish the thought to not leave it totally incoherent. Was just like in that end part of the crimes, and the whole book is like why are the femicides happening over and over again, and then it's like he goes into literature, he goes into the ways of the world. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm just agreeing.
Yeah. So then but then at the end there's an actual journalist who's called Sergio Gonzalez, who's going on the quest.
Who in real life had a correspondence.
In real life had a correspondence. By that point, Bolaño had moved to
never
Bolaños.
went to Ciudad Juarez.
Right.
He never went to Ciudad
And
Juarez.
he wasn't even in Mexico when he was writing it. He was in Blanes in Spain. So then he was getting all this information from this journalist who he called by his name, Sergio Gonzalez, in the novel. And then what we were talking about is going deeper and Sergio Gonzalez's actual book called The Femicide Machine of why this was happening.
He explains it.
And he explains it to how suddenly you have these factories just south of the border because of NAFTA, because it's cheaper to make factories right in Mexico.
And it's convenient for Mexico to transport drugs.
Yeah, transport drugs. Yeah, and then all these women are coming up to get this cheap labor, and it's terrible conditions. And then this type, it's not the full answer, obviously, but that, 1993 to 1996, when did NAFTA go into effect? Fucking 1993.
Yeah, so. And those two works, they work. Yeah, because you can have like the whatever dialectical materialist like interpretation about understanding every single piece and how it works and all these things through Sergio's book.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And Bolaño gives you like the I don't know. You wouldn't say like, I don't know, humanistic, or also like, because I think like Bolaño also talks about, and what's cool about Bolaño, because he wasn't even Mexican, but he immersed himself in, I feel like my dad is, not to bring up my dad too much, but my dad is low-key like that, because he moved to Mexico City and he fell in love with Mexico City, and he started learning a lot about Mexico City, because when you're in Mexico City, you become immersed, right? And I feel like Bolaño had that same thing where he was able to see clearly how it worked. And he began, because Mexico, if you really like look at Mexico, you can get a lot from, like whatever you're trying to like, you know what I mean?
What you mean?
Like if you like, maybe not in general, but maybe I feel like Bolaño was able to like get like his whole project about violence.
I see.
About
you can understand a lot about the world.
You can understand about the world because you have both.
How Mexico City works.
You have like you have Mexico being this country that has a lot of corruption,
right? But
also like it's not like Cuba where it's like it's a fully communist country, and, like, the culture is so high,
right?
You can like you can go up to a kid and he'll like recite you a fucking Jose Marti poem or something.
I see. It's like it's got the Western influence. It's got the relation to Western. It's got relation with the West, but then it also has the corruption. Yeah, the corruption. And how is it now? When's the last time you went to Mexico City?
I was in there in the summer because I did like a residency with my boy Nico.
Okay, cool.
It was cool.
Nice.
It was like a little bit Savage Detectives coded because we were like hanging out with like one of my friends is like an architect, like this really important architect.
Everything
in Mexico
you do
City.
is Savage Detectives coded, dude. I didn't even say what happened this time. So you pulled up to the class, then you just text me. You're like, "Oh, let's get a coffee. I'm here for these dates." Out of the blue, and I said, dude, I'm far as hell. I'm way uptown, and you're like, "All right, I'll pull up." Goated moves. And then Diego Sanchez making goated moves, dude.
You think?
You're making goated moves, dude. I'm riding for the boy, dude. You're gonna fucking. Yeah, I gotta start a magazine so I can fucking publish some of your poems.